Yo, what's going on, guys? We are back for another Chainsaw Man chapter, and this one is really good. I mean, of course, the recent chapters have been pretty amazing, in my opinion, but we have chapter 140 titled Scales, and this one, we get another reveal of another weapons hybrid devil, and this is pretty big because we get lots of stuff set up, so we'll just get right into it with Sugo and Denji. They're basically outside of the Chainsaw Man Church, like headquarters. It's sort of a big skyscraper with the Chainsaw Man's head on the front, and it's just like hilarious. Like, I bet this is feeding Denji's ego like a little bit, but basically Sugo's talking about like the Chainsaw Man Church. They took over like a former cult, and since they took like all of their stuff, they basically built this and they took their assets and all that. So the Chainsaw Man Church already seems a little shady. I mean, we knew before it's a little bit shady, but Denji, he's like, okay, well, where are all the, like, all you can sleep with girls at? I love how he's like sort of labeling this as like all you can eat buffet. Like, he's like, where's the all you can sleep with girls at, man? But Sugo's like, hold up, we're almost there. And Sugo's like, hold up, take it easy. We just gotta talk to this girl first because she'll be our guide. And we get to see, I mean, probably one of the biggest reveals in part 2 of Chainsaw Man, where we might be seeing Kobeni again soon, or we're gonna hear about her soon, so that's gonna be very interesting. But this girl, she's like, hello, I'll be your guide. My name is Nobana Higashiyama. And if you guys remember, in part 1, Kobeni's last name was Higashiyama, or I guess like it's a first name in Japanese, but either way, this girl, she looks a lot like Kobeni. She sort of has the same mannerisms, and she's like very nervous and stuff, but I'm pretty sure this would be one of her younger sisters because she's obviously in high school still. She's younger than Kobeni. Kobeni was an adult, but I just had like a theory right away where maybe Kobeni's like missing or she's dead, like God forbid. But either way, maybe she's dead or she's gone, and her family, Kobeni's family, sent out Nobana. They're like, go out there and get us money, be a devil hunter, join the Devil Hunters Club in high school, and make us money because your sister is not, she's not cutting it. But either way, she's going to be the tour guide, and she's taking them through the Chainsaw Man Church. She's showing them basically like the rooms and different stuff about the church to basically get Denji sort of initiated with them because they want him to join, obviously. But they're walking through this like chapel sort of area. It looks very ornate, and Denji's like, there's like only kids here because there's a bunch of kids in like school uniforms. And Nobana, she's like, good eye, you know, most of us are kids because we don't really want adults. Like, their mental facilities are lower because of the United States ultraviolet ray beam thingy. And this is basically just like, I mean, the closest word I could say is like propaganda, but also like it's just manipulation by the higher ups of the Chainsaw Man Church, because they're basically saying the adults of like Japan are like getting their brains rotted by this American ultraviolet ray like weapon that's like, you know, gonna cause huge war. And they're basically saying it's only affecting adults, so that's why we want to have kids here. And it's just like, you know, like classic, like they're being manipulated to do this stuff, and they're just dumb kids. But Sugo, he's talking about how America's like the fucking worst, man. I hate it. Like, it's just like, okay, somebody in the higher ups of the Chainsaw Man Church is not a fan of America at all, and maybe it'd be really interesting to like see a plot line of us like fighting American like devil hunters or something like that, because I mean, international anything is like really cool. Like, we had the International Assassins arc, and that was really interesting to see like different types of devil hunters come to Japan for one singular purpose. And maybe it's going to be like the Chainsaw Man Church wants to wage war in America or something like that. But Denji, he's like, is this all like for real? Like, you guys are like really sus. But they're basically talking about like, yes, this is real. Like, it's super cool. Like, we just like discovered this because Chainsaw Man, he saw the ultraviolet rays. And they're like, you know, both the Americans and adults are pretty dangerous, so we gotta stay away from them. But like Denji, he's like, what's this room right here? And we see these pews, I think that's the word, like church seats with like chainsaws on the edges, like as like decoration. And we see this huge statue of Denji in his Chainsaw Man form with like his shirt off, like on his like knee with like his chainsaws up. And it just looks like so funny because this place is like glorifying him so much, but it doesn't really seem to be like, you know, affecting his ego that much. But Nobana, she's like, this is the Chainsaw Man wedding chapel. Like, you know, everybody gets married here. Like, that's how you sort of get in. And she explains like, in the next room, Denji, you're gonna, have sex with a girl. And Denji's like, finally? Like, finally, the whole reason I came here. But Nobana, she's like, hold up. Then you guys gotta get married. And then you'll join the Chainsaw Man Church finally. And Denji's like, I'm not marrying anybody. I'm more of a hump and dump type of guy. A hit it and quit it. But Nobana, she's like, what? Like, she didn't expect this at all. She's like, okay, hold up. Gotta be a good guy. And she's like, well, in the Chainsaw Man Church, like, we encourage students to get married. Oh, and that's right. Like, our current system of marriage is just brought over from America, and it's being used to like create these Japanese slaves. And they're like, marrying as a student is like the most natural way of marriage. And this is just like, it's grade A manipulation, like I said before. Like, they are being like sort of, I don't know if being forced to believe this or just stupid enough to believe this manipulation in a way where they're like super behind this. And throughout this whole thing, like, maybe it's just Nobana, she's nervous like Kobeni, but she seems a little on edge talking about all this stuff, and maybe to a point where they know that they're lying. But Sugo comes in again. He's like, man, for real, Americans suck, bro. And I just love this because he just keeps like interjecting randomly, saying like, fuck America, bro. But it sort of reminds me of like, other mangaka in like Japan, obviously, just not really liking America and being like putting it like in like your face in the manga. Like the first thing I can think off my head is like My Hero Academia, where an American hero comes in and sort of like, doesn't do like what we would expect to do from someone that powerful. But either way, Denji, he's talking about like, you guys are fucking lying to me. Like, I wanted to hit it, but I'm not trying to get married. And Sugo, he's like, what? Why not? Like, he's sort of like shocked by like Denji's reaction. He's like, you wanted to do all this stuff. Like, what? But Denji, he's like, I never saw no ultraviolet ray from the Americans. And Sugo's like, what? Like, you didn't? And like, obviously he's sort of taken aback by this because the Chainsaw Man said this. And Sugo knows who Denji is. He knows that Denji's the Chainsaw Man. Even though he knows that like Denji wasn't like there consciously, he knows that it was his body. And he can turn in the Chainsaw Man whenever he wants. So Sugo is sort of shocked because he's like, Chainsaw Man said this to us in our church. But he's also saying like, maybe we do lie and embellish stuff. Where it could also be a thing where he knows that, they're lying about this stuff. And he's like, okay, fine, you know. Or he's like, maybe we do lie a little bit and embellish, but, it's all for the greater good. And that's his entire justification for all this. It's pretty, like simple. He's like, we saved a bunch of people, the Chainsaw Man Church, from, defeating devils. Like, it doesn't matter if one or two people gets hurt. And Denji's like, does that make it okay to like make all this shit up and force kids to get married? And Sugo has like a moment of like reflection, I guess it looks like, because he's like, well, it doesn't really fucking matter. You're a kid too, right? Like, you came here with not a second thought, bro. You only were thinking with your dick. And then she's like, hold up. I thought about this logically. And of course, we know Denji did not really think about this logically. If he was thinking about it logically, he wouldn't have gone with them. He would have probably went back home. Also, real quick, if you guys are liking the Chainsaw Man content, want new chapter reviews each week and more videos, just please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Back to the video. But either way, Sugo's talking about like, I'm being very logical too, man. Like, we've saved hundreds of people. It doesn't really matter if a few people get hurt in the process. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And obviously this is sort of like fickle reasoning, where I think maybe he doesn't fully believe this reasoning, and maybe he could stray away from it and maybe like leave the Chainsaw Man Church's side to like join Denji's side, and like maybe we get a whole like little faction in the middle of the Chainsaw Man Church and the Devil Hunters, just like of Denji and his little crew of people, which would be pretty cool. Because Sugo, he seems like he's a kid still, like he's a teenager, because he's trying to like be friends with Denji. He's like, I wanted to be friends with you. He's even enrolling in high school, even though that weird lady that was like 23 enrolled in high school. So we don't really know if anybody can just enroll in high school in the Chainsaw Man world, because it seems like they got a lot of people that are above the age of like 18 and 20, like just in high school, like pretending to be high schoolers. So maybe Sugo is older, but it seems like he's sort of a younger guy, and he might be more like susceptible to like manipulation and being swayed, and he might also like realize he's on the wrong side and maybe leave himself. So I'd love to see a team of these hybrid devils just fighting together, because that'd be cool as fuck. I mean, when we saw it, I think chapter 87 of the manga, that shit was so cool. But either way, Nobana, she's like, hold up guys, I can't be a guide with you guys fighting. So like, our next stop is going to be a fun one, so let's just go there. It's called the Chainsaw Man bathroom. But then someone puts their hand on her shoulder, and this gives me major vibes of when the person in the shadows with Fami in the class press like put his hand in the class president's shoulder, and he was like, you don't need to think, dude. Let Fami do all of her stuff and she'll be the brains. You're just the figurehead. And it just gives me major vibes of that. And I think this might be the same person, which I did think back in that chapter that was the fake Chainsaw Man. And when I first read this chapter, I thought that this dude was the fake Chainsaw Man. But it's revealed later, some more interesting stuff. But we'll just get to it, because he talks to Nobana. He's like, okay, you can leave. Your job's done. And she just like sprints away. And I just love that, because like she's like scared, like when this dude stops her. So we know that there might be like some physical or mental abuse happening to these kids, like if they don't comply or if they're like bad at their jobs. So we already know it might be really fucked up. It probably is. This is already giving me major Fire Punch vibes. Like just the whole story of Fire Punch is pretty fucked up. But this is sort of seeming to be on that level of just messed up. Either way, Sugo, he's like, I brought him here for like, you told me to bring him here. Just talk some sense into the kid. And Denji's like, who are you? And he introduces himself. He starts off by saying, you know, hey there, long time no see, or I'm told. And that's already a huge red flag. Where the first time I read through this chapter, I was like, okay, that was nothing. I passed through it. The second time I read it, because I usually read it like 2 times just to like sort of see what's going on, because Fujimoto's very cryptic and symbolic in a lot of his writing, but he's talking about how, you know, long time no see, or so I'm told. So that made me think right away. I'm like, okay, long time no see, he knows Denji from before. And he doesn't remember, so the only thing that makes sense is he was one of the hybrid devils that Makima was controlling. Because, you know, they met, or so he's told, but he says he doesn't really remember. Because his next line is like, but since neither of us remember, you know, we might as well put her there. You know, I'm Brem, or Barum, sorry. I'm Barum, I think that's his name. But either way, this guy is the Flamethrower devil. And I went back, I grabbed volume 10 real quick. I was like, I gotta see if this guy looks like one of the hybrid devils. And sure enough, there is one that has long black hair. He has the same sort of eyes, and he doesn't have very many lines. I mean, I thought like most of those guys were just gonna be throwaway characters, like, because I mean, I didn't think we were gonna get a part 2, obviously, but I mean, now that he's back, I had to like look back. I was like, let me check to see if anybody looks like him. And definitely for sure, the guy that has the Flamethrower devil powers looks like him. And I was like, could maybe he be the Spear devil? Is he the Whip devil? And I had to look back at the designs, and like once they turned into the designs, you can see the Spear devil, he has his jacket open, like in his regular base form. He has like the glasses and then his jacket open. And when he has his spear with the head, you can see his jacket's open too. And the Whip devil, I'm pretty sure it's a girl, but she has a jacket over her shoulders, not her arms in it. And then we see the Whip devil in her full form with her jacket on her shoulders. And then we see this guy, jacket buttoned up, and the only person that is buttoned up, I'm pretty sure, is the Katana Man. But he's like fully buttoned up with his jacket, and when he goes into the Flamethrower form, he's fully buttoned up too. So, I mean, I think Fujimoto was very, very intentional on making their designs sort of different. Because, you know, the Swordman, he has like the hoodie. Reze obviously looks different. Quan Chi, we know what Quan Chi looks like just from her, like, before. And like he made these 3 or 4 like no-name characters like actually sort of stand out and be completely different, because most of the time when we see public safety, they're like fully buttoned up with their jackets, you know, looking professional and stuff. And they all have different designs, and I really appreciate that, because Fujimoto, it seems like he was planning on this stuff coming back later, and he was like, I'm just gonna sprinkle these you know, hybrids out here, and later on they're gonna come back and stuff. Like that is sort of like genius if it was planned. Obviously it might not have been, because that's just the way manga goes. But enough of this rant, because I just thought it was really interesting, because you know, we get to see him again, and this is obviously going to lead into more weapons devils, at least I hope. But either way, he puts his hand out to like shake Denji's hand because he's like, "Nice to meet you. I'm Barem." And instead of like actually shaking Denji's hand, he like does a stupid ass smile, does like this, and sticks his fingers up Denji's nose, like obviously sort of childish. And he's like making a joke out of it. He's like, "Ha ha ha," it's so funny. And Denji, he's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you, bro. Like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Fine by me, bro." Like, Barham, he's like, "Fine by me. But like, if you did, would the Chainsaw Man come and save me?" And this is all just what Barham is trying to get at. I don't know if it's pronounced Barham or Barim, or I'm not really sure. But his name also is really interesting because I searched it up because I was like, maybe it has some significance with other stuff, and it means scales, or it's like a wage scale in French, and maybe that's what Fujimura's pulling from because, the title of the chapter is called Scales, and Borim even talks about scales later, so we will see that this might be a lot more symbolic than we're thinking about, and Fujimura definitely likes bringing in like symbolic stuff. I mean, all of like the names of the followers of Chainsaw Man are names of angels and like really like old shit from like the Bible. So we will see what he really wants. And he's talking about, I wonder why Chainsaw Man hasn't been fighting devils lately. He's been sort of MIA. Quite the mystery. He's like, Denji, what do you think would bring Chainsaw Man back? And he's playing oblivious, obviously. He knows who Denji is. Well, he at least knows like that Denji's the Chainsaw Man. Maybe not from memory, maybe from somebody else telling him, but he's like, would he come back if there was a huge devil that attacked Tokyo? And Denji's like, okay, Tokyo's gonna be fine without the Chainsaw Man. Like, they have devil hunters and Asa's there. And I mean, it's just funny Denji's mentioning Asa because she's the one taking all of his spotlight. And he really doesn't like that, but he's like, she can protect people too. Like, I don't really need to be here. But Barim, he's like, oh, Asa, you guys must be friends. But I mean, she's all over the TV anyways, so it doesn't really matter. And then he says, a cute, dumb girl is a good catch. And another just red flag, bro. You don't say that about my girl Asa, bro. She is a cute, dumb girl. We can give her that. But she's got a lot more to her. She's got a lot more wisdom and intelligence to her, even though she is very dumb in social settings. That's what I would say. But he gives Denji this weird ass look, and this is where I'm getting like huge Fire Punch vibes, because he's like, Denji, and he leans down, like, because obviously this is a grown ass man, and it's really weird he's in the Chainsaw Man church because they don't like adults. But either way, he must be the mastermind, or at least somewhere very high. But he's like, does this mean that killing Asa will bring the Chainsaw Man back? And Denji's like, oh, what are you? And he's like, oh, hold up. Picture the following: 2 scales. And obviously, bringing it back to the chapter title and maybe his name. So he's talking about, on the right side, friends, family, a regular life, your regular normal life that you wanted, your pets, cats and dogs, on the other side, just one thing, that starter that turns you into Chainsaw Man. Which side is heavier? And Denji, he's like contemplating, he's like, oh God, oh my, which side is heavier? And I mean, this is just my opinion, but it's sort of obvious what side is heavier, what means more to Denji, because he already put away being Chainsaw Man. He already said, fine, I won't be the Chainsaw Man for my normal life, because I don't want anything to happen to Nayuta. And mostly that's because he knows what Yoshida can do. Like, he definitely knows that Yoshida could just like kill Nayuta if he really wanted. I mean, she's a child, even though she has the control powers, but she's still a child. And Denji, even though he was talking shit to Yoshida, that's just because he doesn't like him, I'm pretty sure. Like, he knows what Yoshida is capable of, so he's like, okay, I'll just abide by your rules, you piece of shit. Like, even though I'm gonna make fun of you. And like, we saw, like, I was like, Denji's definitely not gonna stop being the Chainsaw Man, or Denji's definitely gonna continue being the Chainsaw Man after that talk with Yoshida. But then we see the next chapter, Denji's completely fine with, being normal. He's a little bit sad, but he wants to be normal, so Nayuta's safe. And so I'm pretty sure in like his heart, that side, the right side with the friends and family and Nayuta and all that stuff, that weighs more. But like, what the audience, I feel like what we want, what I'm sort of feeling like I want to see more of is that Chainsaw Man stuff. And I mean, obviously, Chainsaw Man Part 1 is sort of known for the art, the gore, and the action, and I think it's amazing. But this Part 2 is a lot more slice of life, sort of mystery aspects, but it's just not that much action, and obviously. I really like Part 2, like so far. I really like the plot points and just where we're going with the story so far. But I also miss the action because I really did enjoy the action. But I definitely think like with these like hybrid devils getting like reshown, this is definitely going to open the door for a lot more fights. So I'm really happy about that. And I think that's going to be like really fun to see because Fujimoto has evolved as a mangaka, as an author. We can see it in his paneling, in his artwork. It's very clean now. Like it used to be a lot more like scratchy, a little bit more loose, but it's a lot like it's cleaner. The artwork, the line work, it's a lot like cleaner and more like bold. I feel like where Part 1 was a little bit more like you could tell he was like not like you could tell he wasn't like in his final form, and I think Fujimoto is achieving his final form soon. But either way, we come up on the last page of the chapter and Denji's like, yo, let go of me, I'm out of this place, like I am done. And we have Denji, he's leaving the Chainsaw Man church, and we have Barim, and he's like, see you later, Chainsaw Man, like enjoy your normal life while you can. And end of chapter, no break, so we're gonna have another chapter next Tuesday. Big W. I mean, I think this is like 3 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. I just love when Fujimoto breaks the like 2 in a row break, 2 in a row break, instead that he goes like 3 in a row or 4 in a row. And it's fun because I love getting Chainsaw Man weekly. It's great. But this chapter basically ends off on a threat to Denji. He's like, enjoy it while you can, because I think he's gonna either attack Asa, he's gonna set a devil loose in Tokyo somewhere, because they definitely can. I mean, look what Fami did. She set the falling devil loose, like, and the falling devil even brought another devil, the centipede devil. It's like it wrought more destruction and stuff. So we know that they can summon devils from hell. At least Fami can some way if she like starves them and stuff. But we know they can do that. They probably would be able to take out Asa because, I mean, Sword Man and the Flamethrower Man. Like those are 2 hybrid devils we already like I've seen before, and Makima was like, she was like, I might as well have these hybrid devils because they're really strong. And if Makima is using their powers, I've said this before with Angel, like if Makima is using their powers, they must be OP. So we definitely have the doors open for a lot of stuff, and the setup chapters that we've been getting in Part 2 are sort of boring compared to this one. Like usually we get like 1 or 2 like plot points set up for like the next arc, or from like this little setup arc we've had. We're getting a lot more stuff set up with the Chainsaw Man Church, with the Devil Hunters and all that stuff. But now I think we've reached like a climax of like the setup stuff where we've actually had like threats being put down on Denji. Denji's like, okay, I'm not a part of either of these sides right now, but he might go back to the Devil Hunters. Maybe, but I don't think he will, because he doesn't really like Yoshida and them. Like, why would he give them this information that, this like sword man that was with Makima, he's like with this organization, so they must be strong in some way. But Denji's sort of dumb. He doesn't really care. So he's probably just going to go back home and eat food and hang out with Nayuta and their dogs. But this chapter was crazy. I mean, definitely one of my more favorite ones, especially since we get Barim introduced, and like this like adult sort of, I think he's an adult and like grown man that was controlled by Makima. He doesn't remember what happened, so that's also an interesting thing where maybe all the devil like hybrids, they didn't remember what happened with Makima. And I'm not sure if Sugo remembers what happened, because he does explain that like, he holds Denji in high regard because he beat Makima. He got out of the manipulation and he couldn't. So maybe he knows and remembers stuff, but maybe the Flamethrower man, he doesn't remember anything. And maybe it's like that for a few other of the devil like hybrid guys, like maybe Reze, maybe Quan Chi. They don't remember what happened when they were being controlled, because I'm pretty sure Reze was like killed by Makima and then like resurrected somehow and like turned into her like puppet. So maybe Reze is actually dead. Maybe Quan Chi is actually dead, because a corpse is talking, and maybe she is able to control corpses somehow. I'm not sure. I do think Makima sort of brought them back to life somehow, and maybe they're dead now. I'm not sure. I don't want them to be dead, because I mean, I need Reze, I need Quan Chi back, man. I don't care about Katana Man. He can be dead. Like, I don't think any of us are hyped for Katana Man. I mean, he's really cool and all, but he ain't shit. But either way, I definitely think we're gonna see more hybrid devils. I want to see the Whip Devil and I want to see the Spear Devil, because those are the ones that were unnamed. Like we named Sugo, we named Burim. So I think Fujimoto's gonna go through the course of naming off, like maybe we get the Whip Devil and like maybe she's got an interesting personality or like herself, and then maybe we see the Spear Devil and they are very interesting too. So we're gonna see what's happening next, because I mean, I just want to see like the hybrid devils and like how they became hybrid devils. Was it like a contract like with Denji and like Pochita? Because they're clearly like hybrids. I mean, we have no clue how they became hybrids besides sort of Reze, where like she was experimented on and like she was like a Russian assassin like in this program as a child. So maybe she was forced to like make a contract with the Bomb Devil, stuff like that. Maybe we can go into their backstories into the future, but I sort of doubt it, because the story is more about Denji and Asa at this point. Like we keep flipping between Asa's sort of POV and then Denji's POV, and it's more about those characters like than I guess the world building and stuff aspect, which I could be wrong, and maybe Fujimoto just drops a bunch of like world building shit and we expand this entire like I guess it's like a regular world, like it's regular like 1990s like Japan, just they have devils and stuff. So the last few things I want to talk about, because this video definitely is getting long, is basically how dark this is sort of seeming. Like they're not really letting it on. I think Fujimoto does a pretty good job of like not letting this like sort of seem dark. This like Chainsaw Man, especially like Fire Punch. If you guys have read Fire Punch, I don't exactly recommend reading Fire Punch, but I think it's a good story. Like just read the first volume and then you can sort of just choose from there, because a lot of fucked up shit just happens. Like but either way, like this stuff just, it seems very dark. Like this guy manipulating these children into thinking these like really awful and terrible things. Like that's sort of fucked up. It is really fucked up. Like just the world that they live in. And I think we're going to see more darker aspects of Chainsaw Man. I hope we do, because this world is extremely dark and violent and dangerous. Like a lot of people die from devil attacks, and this world is really like terrible and gruesome. I mean, we saw how Denji grew up, but either way, another thing I wanted to talk about at the end of this is Kobeni. Maybe she is still working for public safety. I sort of doubt it, because you know all the trauma she went through, and maybe there's a thing where all that stuff she went through actually made her like stronger and tougher, and maybe we see a different version of Kobeni, like more of a badass sort of like a Kobeni, where she's sort of desensitized to all this stuff like Quan Chi, but she's also very, you know, like nice still. Like she's able to be polite and stuff because that's just who she is. And I wonder if we're gonna see Nervous Kobeni again, because we have Nobana. I think that was her name, Nobana, but we have her, and she just seems to be a Kobeni replacement. And maybe since we have this replacement, there's no room for another character that's exactly the same, just, you know, a fan favorite. Like I think they're gonna change her character in like some way, like how Maki was changed in JJK. You know, she went from like obviously this more badass woman to like a complete like stoic, just demon. Like she's on her demon time like all the time. She's turned like sort of Toji, at least, like not really giving a fuck, super non-expressive and more serious. While, you know, before she was a little bit more lighthearted, you know, she sort of liked Yuta and all that stuff. So we might definitely see it, like new characters that are old characters, I guess. Like, you know, these people that have been around and Chainsaw Man before, like Quan Chi, Reze, and Kobeni, that might be completely different people now because they don't remember what happened, or the stuff that they've gone through has changed them so much. So we have a lot to look forward to, and I'm really excited for the next chapter. This 1 week cannot go by fast enough. Next Tuesday will definitely be, I think, a banger, and I hope a banger. But thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I do appreciate you guys also making it this far. But thank you guys for watching, and peace.